All right, everybody, shalom, and welcome to the Yishai Fleischer Show, broadcasting live from Judea to the world. You're a part of it wherever you are. And shalom, and welcome to Rav Mike Feuer. Rav Mike, shalom, and welcome. Thanks for coming back on the show.
Oh, Shalom Yishai, it's good to see you again after such a long break.
That's right. L'chaim, let's have some coffee a little. It's morning here in Judea.
I haven't quite hit the coffee hour, but I'll tell you my water, which I'm pumping after my exercise.
Okay, very good. All right, so you're really flying this morning, and that's really great. I like to exercise at sunset. You want to hear a funny thing?
Oh, gosh, that sounds like the most awful idea I've ever heard.
My mom hates sunset. I
love sunset. I'm not going to be doing anything activity-oriented.
Why?
I'm a morning person. I got up a long time ago.
I love it when the sun is setting, things turn gold, and I like to jog in the fields there. It's just I don't know why. Like right at sunset, like my body's like go for a run.
No, it's physiological. My wife is the same way, by the way. She's like a late night person. I'm a morning person. I feel good in the morning. Sun starts to go down. I'm like, let's sit, shall we?
Well, our good friend Lou Weiss is back himself, and he says, "Welcome back in Yishai." Lou, thank you so much for being there. How does everything sound and look?
Tell him about the balance. He needs to hear balance. He needs to be assured.
I want to hear audio balance between myself and Rav Mike. Are we more or less? Not perfect.
I want to hear about the spiritual balance between us because I feel a little bit on my back foot. I just got home. You know, I haven't been here. I see these crazy caves behind you, and I was thinking of Carlsbad instead of Marat and Tifim. You know, where have I been?
Right. Well, this background, it happened to be my mom's birthday yesterday, and so I wanted to take her to a place that she hadn't been at yet, and so we have.
You're a good son.
Yeah. Well, we have an amazing stalagmite cave in next to Beit Shemesh. It's really beautiful. It's not huge. The whole walkthrough takes 30-40 minutes, but it's large, huge.
Yeah.
But it's considered a world wonder because it have the different kinds of stalactites and stalagmites that kind of coexist in the cave, and it's just very beautiful. You're in the very hot Beit Shemesh area in the forest there, and then suddenly you're just going into this underground thing. They did it really nicely, and suddenly you're in this weird, humid atmosphere and otherworldly. And I was actually thinking about Moses. Moshe Rabbeinu.
What a shock.
Right, because it says that Moshe Rabbeinu, when he went up to Har Nevo, that before he was to pass away, that God showed him all of the land of Israel, including the caves and the hidden things.
Right. Rashi brings that down from the Midrash, right? Or is that shot?
No, that's a Midrash. And I thought to myself, yeah, you know, he saw this. He saw this very cave.
The underground gem.
Yeah, an underground gem. And there wouldn't be, by the way, an underground gem without the lighting. You know, they add all this lighting to it because it's
underground.
Right. And they make a path through it. And it's totally right. It's totally dark, but they made it beautiful and otherworldly. So it was great to be there. And Marilyn Poe says shalom from North Carolina. I think that many years ago, my mom took me to North Carolina where we saw there a stalagmite cave.
We had this discussion earlier, but I can say it's my favorite state in the union, and it's quite late at night or early in the morning. So
that's right.
Thanks for tuning in.
It is a great state, of course, North Carolina, and I myself am heading out. You just came back from a trip to America.
Yes.
And I'm heading to the United States for a long time, some 28 days. Well, in Florida, in Texas, and in New Jersey, or New York, New Jersey area.
Did you choose which states you're visiting according to governors?
No, not according to
just checking.
According to our family, and this is a family tour / work. I'll be doing some talks in Texas.
Work doesn't stop.
Right. Well, yeah. It's funny you say that. Yesterday, speaking to
you tell me how that goes when you get back.
Yesterday, I was speaking to somebody, so I said to him, "Yeah, I'm flying away for like a month," and I said to him, "But don't worry, I'm still going to be able to work. I'm on WhatsApp. I'm on email." He goes, "Why do you even say that? Like, it's okay. Just go do your thing. Go on vacation. Like, why do you have to say I'm on my WhatsApp?"
It's not a bad thing.
That's what he told me, and I laughed at myself a little bit. Any case, back to Moshe Rabbeinu. Speaking of Moshe Rabbeinu, Rav Mike Feuer, we're in a new book. We just finished the book of Bamidbar, which is really a book that I love so much. Bamidbar, so many great, interesting stories, so many politics, so many issues of leadership, issues of generational changeover, just really issues of rich in terms of.
Well, you've always called it the book of Jewish politics, so no wonder you love it.
That's right. It's the book of Jewish poli sci. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Right now we're in the book of Jewish. First thing, Jewish philosophy, and also this whole book is a long speech. It's a long speech given by Moses, and I learned some very interesting things about this book. And one of the things is that I don't even know how we say this, and I'll say it in Hebrew. You can help me translate it. We're אנחנו דורשים סמוכין.
We derive meaning from passages which are just sort of in conjunction in the text.
Right.
I don't know a more concise way to say that, but
since this is a redacted text, a speech given, so therefore the thing that he said before Moses ties into the thing that he says right after, and you can learn something from why he juxtaposed these two things together.
Which is always an interesting question. It's not that we don't say that elsewhere in the Torah, but here it becomes a principle because it often can be experienced in very choppy fashion if you look at it as a written text instead of as spoken. Because one of my projects I'm working on right now, I'm helping to transcribe and sort of transform someone's spoken classes. And the way we deliver information and we refer to ideas when we speak is fundamentally different than that which when we write. And so things will make sense to people who are listening that might appear odd, to say the least, if you're just sort of trying to read it through as a written text.
Right.
So you have to read it as a speech, in short.
Right. Like if you're giving a speech and you go and you make a strong point, and then you look at the crowd and you go, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like
the beauty of it is suddenly we get Moshe said, and God said to me, right? Up until now, it's been God said to Moshe. Now it's like, oh, by the way, and then you have to sit with that. And then God said to me, before you even get to the content.
Well, I just want to tell you that, and speaking of speaking, Shaul Lindenbaum says that you asked about sound balance. It sounds like Rav Mike is sitting in the mic, and Rabbi Yishai is talking
from far away.
From far away. So we have some kind of imbalance. I'm going to.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you very much. Let me just hit a button here and see if.
I'll move back. I realized I don't have my good mic plugged in because I was, like I said, running back and forth one place to the other. But
well, I just hit a button, and Shaul, if this sounds better, let me know. In the meantime, I also want to say hi to. What kind of name is that? Sprather?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Okay.
But I don't have a church.
Okay. Well,
thank you though for the blessing.
I think what the meaning is what sometimes Christian folks mean by that is your ministry or your pulpit. We would say your thing that you are.
I have a shul, like, but I get it.
They don't mean a church necessarily.
No, your message that you're broadcasting.
Right. Exactly. Oh, so Shell says it sounds worse. Hold on 1 second. So let me unclick that sucker, and I'm gonna
Please pause for technical difficulties. Okay.
How about this? I'm gonna change it. So I hope we're a little bit more balanced. Shell, let me know. I pumped up my volume. Let me know if that sounds a little bit more equal. In any case, keep up your help, Shell. You really appreciate it. Here's another thing I want to ask you about the book of Deuteronomy.
Deuteronomy,
which is the book we're going into, the book of Dvarim.
The second time around.
That's right. Second time around, second Torah. This parsha is one of the. I think it's a little bit of an unfair name because not all of the book of Deuteronomy is a reversion to the 4 previous books. It's got some elements of, but like it's not like the whole thing is like a second telling. There are parts of it which are a second telling. This week's Torah portion, the Torah portion of Dvarim, is definitely a second telling, and with very different perspectives on issues that we thought we knew.
And well, actually, that's kind of the way it is when you retell your own story.
Right. And I wanted to ask you about that because I got into an argument with somebody recently. He came into the office and Chevron, and he said to us that he talked about the second telling, and there are at least 2 issues. There are at least two issues. 1 second. Okay. There are at least 2 issues that you could see that Moses changes something from the way we thought we knew it.
Mm-hmm.
One is how the spies were sent out.
Very important.
Right. And the way he makes it look like is, well, you guys came to me and said, let's send out some spies. And I thought it was a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
Which is opposed to the original text that we met that it kind of said, God said to him, if you would like to send spies, but it was like a Moses idea and God acceded to it. That's one.
Yep.
Similarly, the same thing happens with the judges that are appointed, as opposed to Moses being the one and only judge, the appointment of judges. The way Moses tells the story is, you came to me and you said, we need judges. We want to be more part of the. We want our
Process.
people part of the process. So he's like, okay, and I let you have it. Instead of Yitro came, gave you advice, saw that you couldn't do it, and Jethro gave you that advice, and then you enacted it, and God kind of agreed to it. So it's a very different tale. So this guy that came to the office, he says that he heard from Dr. Micha Goodman that this shows that when Moses was retelling the story, he wanted to get the people more involved. So he a little bit altered it in such a way as to be like, you see, you guys are always part of the democratic process of decision making, and it wasn't as top down as you might think. And he kind of
it was apologetics,
right?
Framing.
And I said, I'm like, no, I don't believe that. No, I don't think so. I think that his whole point is the original version is the truth, and the retelling is a
second version.
Right, a second, right, like a no, but like a doctored version.
No, I understand. That's what a second version is, meaning as opposed to a retelling.
Right. So I was like, no, they are co-equal. In my opinion, they are co-equal, and it's just as much as the first one. It's just as much true as the first version, and they're just different angles, and both things could have happened. And I said to him, that's actually the way it is in politics. If you ever notice in politics, it's like why he came up with this bill. Well, it didn't work like that. There was this other guy, and he pushed this bill, and this other person from the top down, and there was a whole lot of things that came together at the same time.
So this is an argument, huh?
What do you think? I really wanted to throw.
I mean, first of all, I mean, I think that it's not a bad shot if you want to make an argument, or you're giving a drusha on how to explain this discrepancy. I want to just be clear on that. I mean, it's not like the reading is not only sound, but it could be insightful, in the good sense, right? Not inciting. But I want to back up a second before I give what I think is the shot in both those cases, which is from a different perspective, and just say that it's not just in politics that this is the way it is. This is the way it is in life as driven by memory altogether. What do I mean? There's your experience, and there's how you relate to it once it's in the past. That's a fact of consciousness. Do you understand what I mean? Things are happening to us all the time, and chronologically, they move on. But when we talk about memory, it means, but I still have that experience. It's who I am, but where does it exist? Now, I want you to try a thought experiment right now, and everybody listening can too. Think of something that happened in your life more than 5 years ago that you said at the time, wow, things are going to be different after this. It was that big. You don't have to tell me what it is, so you can go wherever you want. I'm not even going to ask you what it is. Just think about it. You let me know when you got something. You were like, at least 5 years, you were like, it doesn't have to be massive, but I know you've had things in your life, but things are going to be different after this. You got something?
Okay.
Now ask yourself, if at least 5 years later now, you understand that event the same way now as you did then. Not possible. Meaning you share, maybe you have a continuous memory of it, but you don't look at it now like you did then.
Right.
Not if it was that big.
Right.
Right. And that is the defining nature of the relationship between Devarim and the other 4 books of the Torah. Is that Moshe now, they had all these shared experiences. And just on the surface of things, he's like, I'm going to tell you about what just happened. And the difference between the second version and the retelling is the difference between an attempt at history and the fundamental fabric of memory. Remember that history is an import into our tradition. So that, Dr. Rabbi Micha Goodman. Anyway, he's Gaval. His thought is always worth reading. I may not agree with everything he says, but it certainly would never be dismissed. But he comes from that sort of head of history, critical perspective. But the Torah is presenting us with Moshe's experience. So the Pshat, I'd say, was leaning heavily on, shlach. God says, go ahead and send him, Moshe. What do you think? I mean, the Rashi brings it down. It's the first time, that Moshe went to God and said, what do we do? And every other time God says, Moshe, right? This time, it's like, I don't know, Moshe. What do you think?
Right.
And they're back in the moment, he sends them, right? Why? And the people are afraid. To some degree, he gives into their fear. Maybe he doesn't understand it. We could talk about that in Shlach Lecha. Now, when he's telling us about his own experience of it, not only does he tell what it was like, you all came to me and okay, fine, it was a good idea, and I went with it. And Rashi brings some interest in our parsha, saying like he was hoping that, if somebody says, sell me your donkey, you say sure. Like, well, let me do a donkey test ride, no problem. Will you let me test ride in the valley? Sure. Will you let me test ride in the mountains? Sure. Well, you know what? Just sell me the donkey. If he's willing to let me test drive it that many places, he must be absolutely confident. So Moshe's like, yeah, go check it out. But we get his inner dynamic of how he experienced it.
Right.
And I think it gives an important insight, because he also says, by the way, right after that's why God got angry with him and he couldn't go into the land, which is an important question. Like, well, what do you mean? I thought Moshe couldn't go into the land because he struck the rock.
Right.
And there's a connection there, maybe. But the other one, and then I'll pass it back to you, is the other question of them coming to him about the judges and Yitro and all that, is that I can imagine that before Yitro came to Moshe, there were some rumblings in the camp. And Moshe probably wasn't listening, because he was like up there with God. Yitro is a man on the scene. He understands people. He gets how things work. He's talking to all kinds of folks. He's an outsider. People are probably confiding in him. He comes to Moshe and he's like, listen, Mir Hashem, this is the way things should be.
Right.
And then Moshe wasn't stupid, So like, by the time he makes it to Arvot Moab, he's like, yeah, so you guys sent Yitro, you came to me, and you're like, this is the way it needs to be.
Okay, so that's an easier explanation. That's a good explanation. That's an easier one.
But they both reflect his personal experience over time. That's my point. Don't miss it. Is he's been reflecting on this experience for 40 years.
Right.
Both of them. Do you think he understands in the same way now as he did then? Impossible.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. You know what? I just was reminded of something that if I don't do it now, I would be, God forbid, liable to forget it. So
I think it's appropriate. I know exactly what you just thought of.
Yeah. Today is it's 2 days after, but this show is dedicated to the yard site, the day of passing of our good friend Leah Goldman, and it's dedicated by her beloved husband Shmuel Goldman,
our brother and friend,
and that's right, and new wife as well, already for many years, of Batsheva. And the reason I say that is because when Shmuel sent out the message that we're going to be commemorating the yahrzeit of Leah Goldman, he sent it in his name and the name of his new wife, and he's been doing that for like 8 years.
Oh yeah,
that was one of the most beautiful things and one of the most beautiful senses of continuity, and that is that, like, a wife passes away, she leaves children behind, a new family is formed together with a wife that already has children and a husband who has children, and a new unit is built, and they together commemorate the passing of this great person, previously, and therefore celebrate the continuation, the grafting on of this, the grafting not on, but grafting together of this family. And there's something, so you get that email that says, like, okay, the husband and wife commemorate the passing of Leah beforehand. It's just like, you're like, this is continuity. This is life. This is not just like cut, that was a part of life and it's over. No, it keeps going. This family's being built and rebuilt. The children are still being raised in the same way that they were being raised before. And there's a continuity to life. And if you go up there to the Goldman house in the Golan Heights and you see the beautiful house.
Oh, it is real life. It is just
beautiful,
growing, thriving.
Right. I like our friend Leah Goldman. She was so full of life. And then when she was cut down by this cancer, and she, like the Lubavitcher Rebbe, shrunk,
tiny at the end,
right? And yet like the burst of energetic life that came out of her death, like some kind of
I mean, when I think about the amount of prayer that came into the world in the last 6 months of her life alone, I'm mind-boggled. I'm talking about bursts of light, and the beauty that I hear in what you're saying, as it connects to where we came from, which is why I said I think it was entirely appropriate, is that you're pointing out that all the life you see there in Shmuel and Batsheva coming together and building their families together, all that life wouldn't exist if Leah hadn't passed. Mm-hmm. That's simply a fact. Those are the historic facts, right? The constructive power of memory is the way in which that itself becomes part of the positive energy. Right? When the tragedy is transformed into a source of positive identity, to break it down into terms, then memory is redemptive. Baal Shem Tov says, right? Memory and redemption are linked, right? Memory is Santayana can say that those who forget history are doomed to repeat it. Baal Shem Tov says that actually memory is the key to redemption. And forgetting is exile. So like that redemptive, growthful power is really rooted. So it's beautiful what you're pointing out, just in the simplicity of the mutual invitation to remember.
So that is today's show is dedicated to Leah Goldman, a great friend.
Leah Goldman about Esther Frumit, right? What was your father's name? What's your father's name? Jerry, I know his name.
That's right, Jerry, man.
Okay. But anyway, just said it because they usually use Dav except for the refuah, right?
And that also ties in to two more things. First thing was my mom's birthday, as I said, so happy birthday to my mom.
Happy birthday to mom. Happy birthday.
Right. Well, happy birthday to mom is always happy birthday to yourself, right?
Yeah, sure.
Right. And
there's a little bit of self-love always in the mother love, right?
You know what I mean? You're like, but my mom's doing great, and she is also a Temple Mount warrior, and she made her debut at speaking at the Knesset this week.
Wow.
She went to a meeting, not a meeting. What is called a
conference?
But it was more than a conference. When they have in the Knesset, they'll have a plenum.
A hearing?
It was a hearing. Let's call it a hearing. That's what it would amount to. And she spoke from the table about her experiences on the Temple Mount and about the Mugrabi Bridge. And
right. Because this is just disaster waiting to happen right now. Oh, we should talk about that for a second.
Yeah, it's not actually true. It's not disaster.
Oh no, meaning the stability of it is not in danger?
Yeah. No, it's a fake story. It's fake news being put out by news. Yeah, it's totally fake news. The thing is anything but unstable. The wood slats can be replaced, should be replaced.
Okay, fine, say it, but it slid once in that earthquake and they built the thing. But who's putting out fake news in that such a specific and potentially explosive fashion?
Oh, very simple. The people who don't want Jews to go up to the Temple Mount. The people that want to slow it down. And right now, Jordan.
It's the jihadis because they just.
It's the don't anger the jihadis lobby. Within this very powerfully. They are like, whoa, this bridge is unstable. We got to shut this down.
We got to shut it down, right? And then it's such a political nightmare to rebuild it. I missed the two-step. The two-step. You got to understand the two-step.
Bridge. There's nothing wrong with it. It's fine. It's made incredible steel strength. It's got these
right. Yeah. It's certainly no more dangerous than half the rest of the old city.
Total bogus fake news put out there.
Oh, scary.
Yeah, it's
scary. That's someone thought of a very good issue to push on.
Oh yeah,
because that place is definitely, if you want to call the Temple Mount, I remember when I was here in college before I was a religious man. I was here in 1994, 95. And things were opening up, like peace with Jordan, and we went down to Egypt for weeks. We were off and on the Sinai even. But we were sitting once at the Tayelet looking at the old city. And I remember saying to my buddy late in the evening there that whether you believe in God or not, that's basically a big gold button that says push here for apocalypse. So that ramp could be the fuse to the exploding thing. To be so simple, like a specific municipal issue, and then pow. I'm going
to challenge you with just a tad on that, which is that apocalypse thing is one of the ways that the jihad has managed to scare us into so-called status quo. The truth is, and this has been shown over and over and over again. The latest, most the big move that was supposed to cause a zombie apocalypse was the renaming of the Jerusalem consulate, the Jerusalem embassy, the U.S. Jerusalem embassy moved to Jerusalem, and all the poli-sci folks and the State Department folks.
That's old news, dude. What about the fact that the flag march provoked 2 weeks of war? I mean, right now things are pretty hot on that territory. You put too many Jews up there to pray, and they're going to start to riot.
My point to you is that the truth is, when Israel's actually Middle Eastern, when it's decisive, vociferous, out loud, proud, out of the closet, says what it does, most of the Arab world is like, it is what it is. And there are plenty of voices coming out of Saudi Arabia that are like, that is not anyway the al-Burak.
No, I'm with it. But my point is, there are also plenty of enemies just, playing their chess games and swirling around just at all times. And so in terms of bringing things to a head, it doesn't work better than that. I mean, the narrative of the apocalyptic is a very strong force in shaping both the history and the stories of the people who are holding the guns and the power and the interests and structures of our world. You can call it a self-fulfilling prophecy, or you can call it just a story we all are playing out. But that sort of showdown transition point in society where it's a watershed moment from a systems perspective, which watershed means either the system goes up a level or it goes down a level in energy. It's just that the level of energy and organization it's holding right now has become so unstable that it must. And it's not a guarantee that it'll go up by any means, right? Hence the two ways it can go tradition our sages handed us about what Mashiach looks like, 1,000 years of the ideal or 1,000 years of quiet for the planet.
Mm-hmm.
So
my point is there are forces that want to make it scarier than it is.
I'm not arguing with that, but my point is also that there's also a reality there, and if we're gonna make a move, I would say, by the way, making a decisive move there first for us is good, but then let's like make a move and not like can I stumble into some coalition question of whether we can fix a ramp, and they're gonna start to riot, and then I'll fumble the response, and then
you got to be totally out there, and people will respect you. I mean, right now, look what's happening. You got Jordan starting to fall towards Iran. There's a lot of Jordan is a weak and fake country. Weak and fake country, and it's going to.
Wait, can we use proper terminology? It is a colonial state.
It's a colonial state.
Let's be specific. I think it's important to call it that in today's discourse, where people have cast that aspersion at us, right? Where let's say Nehi, I agreed with them, which I don't, but let Nehi that I did, then just from logic, it's ridiculous not to call Jordan, unless, of course, you want to have the race talk, right? Because the Hussein's family ain't from around there. He didn't organically rise from the desert as this noble monarch of 10 generations.
You know what the worst thing about Hussein is? Not only is he a fake colonialist.
Don't call him a stooge. It's Pat.
I wasn't going to call him a stooge. I was going to call him a kind of a figment, a created.
Figment. Yeah. Fiction.
Yeah, a fiction. That's it. Not only that, but here's the worst part. He is a corrupt and not a smart ruler.
Can I tell you a funny story about him? He also happens to be quite short.
Yeah, he's short. That's
right. But my brother, during the second Iraq War, was in the Middle East, and he refused to get embedded. Remember, that was the U.S. was embedding reporters, and he worked for the Times. He could have done it, but he was one of these reporters. And where were all those guys? They were all in Amman, because that was as close as they could get, and they still have a border with Iraq and etc. And there's a whole story there, but I won't go to it. But every time he filed, and the only talk about the news in Amman is the royal family. That's like it. That, the weather, and money. So they were reporting on it, and he and his partner kept writing, and King Hussein, the midget, and they put it in, and their editor finally went nuts on them, because the copy editor has to take that out every single time. I mean, at some level, that's text that's going to go up the line, and God forbid if somebody missed that, stop it. But that was
we've had some great short leaders. I don't think his being short is somehow
no. I'm just saying in terms of the caricature that he represents, it's that good.
Right. It's just you know what bothers me? It's like, if you're going to be a corrupt leader, at least be like not totally inept. You know what I mean? Be like, hey,
who might you be thinking of in the current political field at home?
don't like to see total ineptitude. It's like you're running that country into the ground. Everybody knows you're stealing the money. That place is by the way, Lebanon is also now falling apart. Lebanon,
failed state is
failed
starting to get thrown around as a real thing.
Fake states end up failed states.
Of course.
That's right. Fake states end up failed states.
Well, they're held up by outside interests until either those outside interests themselves begin to totter, or they become no longer of use in present form. So, like, they're held up by outside interests. Right. And they begin to fail when either those outside interests themselves begin to totter. Like Cold War led to a lot of failed states when it ended, right? Or they become no longer of interest in their present form. Meaning, not every failed state is because their backer himself crumbled. Sometimes their backer just moves on, right? But right now, with Iran in Lebanon and the Iranians having plenty of trouble at home, please God, the Americans won't make their life too much easier for them.
And on the edge of Jordan, because they control Iraq.
Right. But meaning I think that's a big part of what's happening there. It's not just its fakeness; it's the fact that its backer, hopefully, is not as strong as we thought.
Which backer do you refer to?
Iran, the backer of Lebanon.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Lebanon. But I'm just talking about Jordan right now. It's teeter and fail, and we just increased the water that we're giving to Jordan by twice as much. Yes, for money. For pay, but for me, it's like, why do you?
Oh no, I want to question you on that assumption. I think that's a good thing, because if we have the resource to make more water available, is fundamentally to increase our influence. If we use it as such, meaning like you build around water as an infrastructure. Things get built around where that goes. Now, granted, the problem is we're dealing with a corrupt, inept leader. But it is a very real soft power. You get a country which depends on you for its water. What?
Water is a hard power, not a soft.
You're not really going to cut it off. No, that's the thing. What makes it something you're not really going to.
Okay, so if you're not willing to actually use your weapon, then it becomes a useless weapon. So
that's what I meant by soft power. It's not a weapon. It's something you point at things. It's well used. We gave up on this Red Dead Canal, right? But it is a mistake to fail to think big in the Dead Sea Canal here and that whole region and all the potential for reshaping. If President Trump had stayed in, that kind of stuff, without saying that would have been good, bad, or otherwise, that kind of construction project, I think, would have reemerged in people's imaginations. And it's a very important, different way to look at the region. The region is a watershed. You look at it as an economic unit. You look at it as these things. A lot of the problems that we have, which revolve around specifically political sovereignty, they don't disappear, but they change shape. And their nature is a dilemma, which feels like it's insoluble, like how we just can't work this out, the intractable, blah, blah, blah. That's a dilemma. And when you start changing things like the perspective, economic, resource, et cetera, a lot of those factors shift and the dilemma goes to a problem and actually has a solution. You understand? And it's no longer this sort of like feeling that all these pieces can't possibly work. So I'm just saying, I actually think that also in the humanitarian sense, I don't think that we're squeezed by water. It's not our limiting factor in development right now as a state. And so therefore there is an important element in respecting water as if not a human right, certainly a basic human need. And I think that there is a place for the rights discourse within water. Then it gets you into uncomfortable talk about population. So.
Right. And I just want to say that Shaul is continuously monitoring our sound. Shaul, I made another change now. Let me know if that's better. I heard a change in my ears, so it might have been something that was a setting that was changed that could be better now.
Okay.
I just want to say to you that I hear what you're saying. I see now a problem with my settings today. But it's the 9 days, right? People don't know that. It's the 9 days, and the 9 days means that things just mess up all the time. And so you have to just accept.
There's just more pressure. And the brokenness of the world is more present, and sometimes that can take small and very disruptive form.
Well, the way I say it is like this: the temple was destroyed 2,000 years ago, and just like a pebble in a pond, there's the continuing ripples, so things are still breaking. You know how
Absolutely.
glass cracks. You know, glass cracks like a window glass, and it keeps cracking. Like it's still cracking. And so my son, God bless him, Elazar, says to me, we had one of our trees broke in the house. So he says to me, and it happened in 9 days. So in our house, we're like, oh, 9 days, there you go, things break. So he says to me, my son, he goes, that's a Kiddush Hashem, because it could have broken at a different time. But the fact that it broke now means that we're still feeling the reverberations of that temple break. And so he's like, I'm so glad it broke now. It really shows that it's real. I was very happy that he got that.
I bless him that when he's got to pay to fix it, he's able to say the same thing.
Right. And I'm not sure
that was without cynicism. That was without cynicism. I said that. That was like a mamish.
Absolutely. I understood it as such. I just want to make one last comment about the Jordan thing, which is, you said a lot of words. I'll say it in shorter words. Personally, I don't mind if my enemies dry out. I have no problem with that. If Jordan continues to act like an enemy, which it has and does, and foments total hate against Israel the whole time, everybody knows that. You can even look at their WhatsApps. You can see that they foment hate all the time. Yeah. I say dry the bastards out. I have no problem with not giving them the water. That's me, okay? And if they want the water, then commit. You have to commit to A, B, and C. And what you said, which is like stop inciting against Israel, get the hell off the Temple Mount, etc. What you said, which is totally true, which is there are powers that are interested in holding this thing up. I can tell you from experience, when you go to the halls of power in the United States and you mention Jordan, they go, whoa. Yeah, don't talk about Jordan. There's something about...
Oh, it's very simple. It's the colonial. That's why I said you got to call it colonial, because Jordan is still the keystone of the Anglo-American reliance upon a certain shape to the Middle East to guarantee their national security in forms of the flow of oil, the balance between Arab nationalism and the religious force, and still some extent of the Cold War dance with Russia. Jordan has always, and perhaps forever will be. But yeah, it doesn't surprise me. I hadn't heard that before, but from the historical perspective, you can see it very clearly in all the documents that people are still like at the no-go zone. Makes sense to me why the obvious solution to the two-state problem, so to speak, it becomes the realm of right-wing kooks and intellectuals who haven't been told to shut up yet.
Or have been told to shut up, but just don't care because
I don't care. Well, then we're right-wing kooks.
I'm so thankful to my job. Kooky, man. I'm so thankful. I realize that so many people have a job where they can't say things, for public reasons. But in my job, if I'm like, no, Jordan is junk and we should dry them out, or at least force them to commit to accepting Israel. Like at Hebron, nobody's like, that's a problem. Everybody's like, sure, that's right. I've worked at like real, nationalist, so-called right-wing organizations like Arutz Sheva and Hebron, and I'm like, that part, they don't pay as well as I don't know what, but working for but I'll tell you what, it gives you a freedom, and I guess I need that. Okay,
it's who you are. I'm grateful you found your home there. I haven't known you for so long, but it seems to me you found your home there.
Thank Hashem. It's truthfully. I think it comes from a certain simplicity. I've realized that I have a certain simplicity in my mind, and so just I'm like, oh, I work for Avram, and that's good.
You could do it. You can't do better than that. There you go. I like it.
Right.
It's simplicity and foundational. I mean, it's kind of like, let's just get this clear. Bedrock.
That's right. Right.
You've got a picture of a cave behind you.
Right. That's right. Okay. Listen. So we talked about Leah Goldman. We talked about the Book of Dvarim. We talked about memory. And seeing it differently. I think actually somebody wrote here about memory. Marilyn says, she goes, from hindsight, it is always more encompassing in the retelling.
Yes.
Okay.
Because
so it's more encompassing.
Everything which lies between you and the event is part of the retelling.
Yes, but I think the most encompassing is when you hear, like the eyes. Here's the parable. The eyes are offset a little bit, and it's actually not the retelling, which is important for us when we read the Torah. It's actually that we have both perspectives.
Yes. And sorry, I took that for granted. Your experience is real. Having the text of the experience is already, at least gives us the frame for understanding life.
Shmuel writes.
Treesing.
Treesing. A trees is
Amazing Yavin.
Yeah, it's a rolling
Shutter.
window shutter that on the sides of everybody who comes from America is jealous as all heck that we have these things, because if you need to turn off the lights,
the women in my family could not sleep in America because they didn't have them. I also I get up very early, so I hadn't really thought about it. But once I heard them complaining, I noticed, I'm like, wow, yeah, you know what? These what do they call? We call them when we pull them down, window shades. Right? They don't work so well.
No, they're not as
in terms of light.
This thing is a quasi, bomb.
I always feel a little bit like I live on, what was the planet that Luke grew up on, Tatooine, right? That they for sure had those, right? Keep out the sand and the light.
Yeah, that's right. But there's no place to go back there, though. There's not, and it's all gone now. Yeah. So Luke, you got to go on. That's I guess that's a mashal for the galut, isn't it?
Sure.
It's like you got to move.
Even
forward.
though we got the tree seam here, we brought it with us. The idea was
that's right. Okay, so lastly, let's hit one last point, which is the holiday / Memorial Day / fast day and commemorative day of Tisha B'Av that's almost upon us, and it's important to know right off the bat that it's the darkest day on the Jewish calendar. Yom Kippur is. I was about to say it's like Yom Kippur in that it's like a sad day. Yom Kippur is not a sad day. Yom Kippur is a happy day, right? Yom Kippur is a joyous day, and our rabbis go out of their way to point that out. But Tisha B'Av is a sad day, and yet we also know through our sages that it's destined to be a happy day.
Well, Nikra Moed, right? I mean, it's actually called a Moed, and a Moed is an appointed time. Right, that's basically what it is. But
what was the word you used? Acquainted?
Appointed time. Oh, appointed. Right? Like you will meet me here and then, right? But in the calendar, right? So meaning there's a divine gift in knowing that there are sacred times. It's like one of the great sort of enduring sources of our wisdom as a people, and certainly my personal mental, spiritual, and emotional and physical health is the Jewish calendar, and so Tisha B'Av on one hand is an accident, so to speak, right? The temple shouldn't have been destroyed. We shouldn't have to sit in the darkness and feel the brokenness all the time. On the other hand, apparently that's not entirely true, because it is a moed, meaning there is something essential to that. And the redemptive side of that is why we have a hint that, it's beautiful for people who understand the detailed laws of the liturgy in Jewish tradition, we don't say tachanun before the day before. It's going to work out this way. The Shabbos, there'll be its own expression, but during we don't say the sort of prayer of supplication and brokenness on the afternoon before, because someday this is going to be a celebration.
Right. That's right. And I want you to know that. Can you hear me? Yeah, I want you to know that the Rav Tzadok Milublin says there's actually going to be a fourth pilgrimage holiday from the 9th of Av to the 15th of Av, which is going to be a specific Mikdash pilgrimage, Mikdash holiday,
which is a very old Mikdash festival itself, from the festival of Shiloh in Tu B'Av. I mean, let's not forget. Right. That was Sviv the Mishkan. It was around the Mishkan. There was a very important story, which I'm guessing we don't have time to tell, in the link between Tisha B'Av and Tu B'Av. But Rav Tzadok says it? That must be true.
Yeah, Rav Tzadok says it, and it's awesome. And I called this show today, I called it Build Back Better. So our friend Mark Pickles writes, Build Back Better on the Third Temple. I love it. I've written
Build Back Better is a good phrase.
Yeah, that's like the big... that's the big lefty phrase, that's the big it's huge.
I haven't seen this phrase.
Oh, you gotta check it out. It's like a whole world. Build Back Better is a phrase used by but it's just be careful, because it's just look into it. You'll see it's considered by the conspiracy theorists, and I don't mean conspiracy theorists in a negative phrase. I mean to say, but folks that are monitoring the stuff are very concerned with this phrase, because it's something that the IMF and the what do they call it? World Economic Forum, they use this term, and it's like it's everywhere. And
it's like about the IMF and the World Economic Forum, I start getting goosebumps.
Right. Okay. So these guys use this term "build back better."
From. Well, they had good consultants, that's for sure.
Right. So I'm like, oh, you mean the temple? That's what you mean. Build Back Better. I want to make some Build Back Better like Third Temple hats. I'm thinking, like Temple 3.0, Build Back Better.
Swag, Build Back Better swag. People need to tell Yishai right now, whether you for the low price of whatever it ends up being, want Build Back Better hat or T-shirt. Let us know what would be preferable.
That's
Frisbee.
Right. You know what?
He's going to the States. You can do it. You can get Frisbees, by the way. With the temple in the middle, that would be pretty. I would buy a Frisbee from you. Personally.
That would be great. Listen, we have one last thing.
Mason, he knows everything.
Yeah, he does. That is true. Okay, one last thing I want to discuss today. We're having a fun show today. We're doing.
I know.
We're
jumping
all around. That's right.
And I've been locked in the house with my kids for 7 days. They're in quarantine. They're not awake yet. I have to wake them up as soon as we're done. So.
Well, there's a few verses in the Parshat Dvarim that I really like that stand out for me, that are important to me, and one of them is this is like a verse that makes me very happy always every year, and it goes like this. It's talking about the fact that the Jewish people captured the Hermon away from Og, and it just says the following. It says, Seidonim יקראו לחרמון סיריון, והאמורי יקראו לו snir. So the Sidonians would refer to Hebron as Siron, and the Amorites would call it Snir. I love that phrase. I love that one.
What makes you love it?
It's like there's been these massive peoples here, and everybody knows that this mountain's important. Everybody knows that because when you travel up there, you're like
boom,
right?
And the water flows off it.
Right, and this verse A is like history. The first thing it says to you, like there are other peoples that lived here, and it's also geography. It's like everybody knew this mountain's important to the point that they gave it a name. And the Torah is like, just so you know, everybody knows that mountain. So it places the Torah in time and the Jewish people in history, and it places it in geography. And it's this, and it's just like it's like.
And then you think of the mountain and you smile.
Right, and you're like, oh, I know what you're talking about because when you go there, you're like,
I know the name.
Right, that's like, oh, a Snir,
I love it.
And there's a river called Snir, and it's like, so these people's called it this, and these people called it that. It's like a lesson in geography and in what's the word I'm looking for? Like study of societies.
Sociology?
Not sociology. Maybe I guess
history.
No, anthropology. Right, it's like a
history,
little
the
phrase.
name, place, the continuity of names given to place. I would put into history. You can go into an anthropology study of it, but whatever.
Right,
now,
it's beautiful. It's geography and it's geopolitical. Right,
continuity there is fantastic because of course we're using the name Hermon.
Right, that's right. We use it. And God's like, and you captured it, but just so you know, there's these other peoples. They were strong.
And nobody calls it Snir or I already forgot what the first one was.
Sirion.
Sirion, right. I mean, obviously that's a different area.
Wait, we have a song that we sing with the word Sirion.
There might be a stream called that. And obviously Syria must have some connection to Sirion. I mean, they happen to be on the other side of it.
It's Snir. There is a river Snir that comes off the Hermon.
Oh, yeah. Snir is beautiful.
Right. Yeah, great. So I don't know why, but every year I'm just like, go on.
Yeah, you just gave me a smile. I'm gonna listen for it this week in the Kriya, and I'll smile too. I like it.
That's right.
That's a good one.
And also, there's another verse that I like a lot, which is in Shlishi, I think. And this you're gonna laugh at me because you know that this is.
I would never, except with the goodness of heart, or
you will snigger maybe. First thing, here's a verse that I like for everybody here.
I don't think you can say that anymore. Yeah. Anyway, sorry. Just moving on.
Verse, chapter 1, verse 21. This is a verse for the simple man. Re'eh, look, Natan Hashem Elokecha lefanecha et haaretz. You see, God has put before you the land. Ale, go up to it. Resh, inherit it or possess it. As Hashem, the God of your forefathers, has told you, Al tira ve'al tichat. Don't be afraid. Don't falter.
Right.
Just like that. Just see, that's what I mean for the simple man. It's like, you see, there's the land, so I promised your forefathers, so go up and get it now.
Yeah, and don't be afraid.
Don't be afraid.
Which is, and don't falter. It's an excellent translation of Tichat, by the way.
Right.
I'm teaching Sefer Shoftim right now in the Pardes summer program, and this is a critical piece of context because, of course, it's exactly what Am Yisrael, after Yoshua at least, doesn't do. Meaning, like, the first wave definitely does it, but then in Shoftim, it like the momentum starts to split and people start to calculate, and the tribes. So this pasuk that I'm going to mention in class tonight. Thank you. It's right at the end of. Sorry, right at the beginning of Shlishi. Where was that? It was you said it was Aleph 21, 121.
Yeah, that's right. There it is.
121. Yeah, I got it.
It's just that simple. It's just like sometimes like, and I have friends, and I say to them sometimes, I have a friend who's having issues with tefillin, and he knows it's the right thing to do. He knows to put on his tefillin every day, and he's like, he says to me, Yishai, I'm working on it, and this and that. I said to him, your problem is that you're working on it. Don't work on it. I said to him, just put on your tefillin. Don't work on it. Don't be smart. Don't work it out. Don't make a philosophy out. Don't understand why you should forget it. You've come to that conclusion now, and also you trust me. I'm your friend, so I'm saying to you, don't worry about it. Just put on your tefillin. And I told him, bepashtus. Make it be simple in your head. Don't be so complex. Don't be so full of yourself. Don't worry about the thoughts. Just do the right thing. Same thing. It's like, go to the land because God has given it to you. That's it. Don't be so smart about it. Yeah, Lou Weiss writes, just do it. That's right, just do it. Okay, last verse. This is the one that you're going to chuckle at. End of Shlishi. No, that wasn't the one.
That was end of Sheni.
Right, end of Shlishi, chapter 1, verse 36. He says, God got angry at us for saying bad things about the land of Israel, and we're not going to get to go in, except Zulati, which means accept. That's the word. Zulati means accept. Kalev ben Yefuneh, hu yir'ena. He shall see it. He shall see it. Not just possess it. He shall see it with his own fleshly eyes.
Right.
Velo etena ta'aretz. And I shall give him the land. Asher darachba, that he walked in. And I read this to Noam Arnon yesterday. Ulevanav. And to his children. Okay? And to his children. It could have totally skipped that word, but it says, and to his children. Ulevanav. Why? Yan asher mileh acharei Hashem. Because he fulfilled the word of God. He followed God.
He was whole after God, right?
That's it. That's exactly it. So it's just, that verse is great. And then, by the way, it also shows you that there's a difference between Yoshua and Kalev. Kalev was the one who was the hero of the story of the spies and fought against the spies. And that's why he got that portion of the land of Israel. As opposed to Yoshua, which he had a different role. His role was, he was the next in line of Moses' position. Yeah. Kalev was not the next in line.
He was going to go with the negative team. Right? That wasn't going to happen. But it was Kalev who was the hero of that opposing side.
That's right.
Absolutely.
So that story, he's the hero of. Yeshua's got a different schut.
Yeah.
And just because you and I are talking about this off camera, I just want to throw out something on camera for you. Uh-huh. I read a very famous rabbi in Yeshivat Gush Etzion. His name escaped me right now for a second, but it'll come back. Yaakov Meidan.
Meidan,
so
sure.
I had a sit down with him and we talked about Kalev.
Right. We mentioned,
Right. And he says to me, you see that Kalev didn't get an important role when they walked in. We talked about the relative importance of Kalev as a character. So he says to me, you see that Kalev did not get an important role at entering the land of Israel. And so therefore he was suggesting that his role was not as great as I would think, for example. Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I disagree with that first premise.
Right. First thing, he got a role as the chief of the tribe.
I wasn't even going there.
Yeah. What were you going to say?
I would say the responsibility for Hebron is enormous for everything which is going to follow from what they're doing. I mean, a vote in everything that follows, and the fact that Hebron became capital of Judah, blah, 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 blah. But I would say, first and foremost, God says, I'm putting this into the hands of you and your children. That's big.
So that's a great answer. And your answer is deep and true. But I will match you with another deep and true answer, which is...
I'll see your answer and provide my own.
I wanted to say to him, it took me like weeks to analyze what he said to me. And then I was like, oh.
He's a rabbi. He'll appreciate that.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
I mean, serious.
Maybe
Right?
he will.
And
Maybe he
he's a
will.
rabbi. He will appreciate. Not a maybe.
Okay, all right.
As
I'll
long as
test.
you do
I'll
it in a
test that
clear
premise.
and respectful fashion, like in discourse, he'll love it.
Oh yeah, of course I would do it.
That means you've been thinking about what he said for weeks. I can tell you as a teacher, there's no greater praise.
I was literally thinking about it for weeks. I was like,
Yeah.
what did he?
Yeah.
And I came up with such a simple answer. Mashiach ben Yosef, it's not a simple answer. Mashiach ben Yosef always comes before Mashiach ben David. Sure. Like, of course, Yeshua was supposed to go into the land, and that was his role. That was the role of the infrastructure, of setting up the whole thing. That's Yeshua. He's the son of Yosef. Yeah, of course, so he's... Kalev represents the Davidic kingdom. That's only later down the line.
That right. Structure, basically.
Right. Yeah. It's down the line. Of course, Kalev didn't get the role right now.
Like, I mean, the statement that you see he didn't get a role when they went in shows he wasn't so important. The answer is no.
No.
Actually, shows how important he was. He's not like your frontline guy who's you're sending in to like set things up. This is a guy who steps in when it's ready.
Yes.
Nice.
Quite right. Exactly
nice.
Right. Exactly right. And this all ties back into Tisha B'Av, of course, which is the day that the Jewish people rejected the land of Israel. It all comes together. And let's finish off with another thing. Please. If you walk right now in the fields of Judea and in the fields of Samaria, the mountains of Samaria, you know what you're going to see? You're going to see that this is exactly when the grapes are coming to the first
smadak, like the first blossom.
The first not blossom.
The first not blossom, the smadak. The first like moving from flower to fruit.
No, they're now moving from fruit to ripe fruit.
Oh, really?
Yes. The 9th of Av, every single year, the 9th of Av is when the grapes are ready. What does the Torah say? When they come back, when the spice guy says, V'hayamim maybe when they leave, it says, V'hayamim may be Avim. These days are the beginnings. That's what you were saying, that they're just budding, they're just becoming fruit. I don't know what the technical term is. I know there is technical terms. Right now in Tisha B'Av, every single year, the grapes are turning. Just the first ones are ready. And then this month and 2 months is all the delicious, delicious grapes. And it's like, just like the Torah says, just like it's promised in just the way it was, just the way it is. And here it is in the fields of Judea. The grapes are coming back to life right after Tisha B'Av, where we feel broken. Suddenly we see, when you look at grapes, they look like little tiny children, like blossoming and being born. And here we are in the land with all of the challenges that we still face, biblical challenges.
Oh, we're on biblical terrain, that is for sure, in every sense of the word.
I like that. Biblical terrain. Keep that thought in your mind. That's a good one for you. That's a good one. Biblical terrain, because the terrain is historical.
It's literally biblical, historically speaking, and the arc of the narrative we're playing out, even in our daily politics, has biblical elements. That's right. We talked about the apocalypse before. I mean, come on. and it was an easy sell. I mean, you may not like the fear factor, the way that's being used in the media, but it's not based on an impossibility.
All right, listen, it's time to wrap it up. You have some class that you're going to be teaching soon that you wanted to invite people to.
Oh, yes. I'm going live with Jewish Story. I'm going to teach a weekly class on Sunday nights. I'm starting Rosh Chodesh Elul, August 8th. You can find on Facebook, or you can send me robmyfeuer@gmail.com. You can go to jewishstory.co and you'll see the registration link there. Once a week, going live. We're going to look at 1945 to 67. We're going to take apart this whole colonial story and all the revolutionary elements that have yet to come fruition really within our society, and check out their roots in a way in which it's going to be both an engagement and a combat with a lot of the lies that are being told about us and some of the truths that just aren't getting the air they deserve. That's the basic story.
That's going to be a lot of fun. So that's jewishstory.co and registration link, or ravmike.com. So that's awesome. And people could write you an email as well.
Yeah, or just write to me.
What's your email address?
ravmikefeuer@gmail.com.
Gmail. That's great. I want to thank the Land of Israel Network for hosting us. I want to thank the folks that make this show possible, which is Yocheved Seidman, Moshe Herman, Ben Bresky, Tabitha, and Lou with us here helping us out.
5 thumbs up.
So that's right. So people really make the show happen. I want to recommend that everybody check out YishaiFleischer.com. We have a brand new donate page, which we just worked on for a long time to make it easy, clear, and fast. And you can
buy you coffee.
That's right. This way, that way, Venmo, Zelle, the PayPal, whatever, however you want to contribute to the effort. of walking the biblical terrain and making it more beautiful every single day. That's totally doable. And I want to thank God Almighty for giving us a chance to broadcast during these holy 9 days. And though on these days we have to be a little bit less, we have to lessen our stuff, as the Lubavitcher Rebbe says, mematin besimcha. That's right. That's why we're doing it. And I want to thank really God Almighty for giving us a chance to broadcast from Judea. Next week, I'll already be on the road. So I'm looking forward to giving you guys reports from Florida. That's right, from Florida.
Listen, if you want to hook up on the distance, you be in touch with me. I'm working all hours these days.
Yofi. Bezrat Hashem. God bless you folks wherever you are. Rav Mike, thank you so much. Have a Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Chazon Shalom. And hopefully not a fast, but a celebration of redemption. But if a fast, then okay, we'll do that as well. We'll do that.
Make it meaningful.
As well.
Right.
All right, folks, more great stuff is on the way. Rav Mike, Shabbat Shalom, and thanks. God bless you. Blessings from the land of blessings, and Shalom.